Regular meeting of the Township of Morris this Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. The time is now 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, I got to read our open statement first. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. An adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required by law. Specifically, notice of this meeting was emailed to the Daily Record and Morris Newsbee on January 5th, 2023. And posted on the Township of Morris website. The agenda and resolutions for the meeting are available on www.morristwp.com under the Agenda Center. Certain portions of this meeting may be closed to the public for the purpose of personnel and/or other matters as outlined in the Sunshine Law. Notice to members of the governing body and to Township staff, any use of electronic devices during the meeting shall be used solely for the purposes of Township business, and any communications are subject to the Open Public Records Act. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Mr. Grayzel.
Here.
Ms. Guariglia.
Here.
Mr. Ravitz.
Here.
Ms. Wilson.
Here.
And Mayor Gyorfy.
Here. If you please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jeff and Kathy, if you want to join me.
Oh. Right away.
Good evening, everyone. We have two proclamations on tonight's agenda that we'll be presenting to the public and sharing online for those to see who can't make it to the meeting. And our first proclamation this evening is recognition that's focused on the epidemic of gun violence that has been continuing to happen throughout the United States. And the proclamation recognizes the first Friday of June as Gun Violence Awareness Day in Morris Township. The horrifying events that continue to unfold across our country due to gun violence occur far too often and are etched into our brains, along with those that occurred in Newtown, the Pulse nightclub, Uvalde, Buffalo, Monterey Park, and so many others. As mayor, one of my first official actions I took was joining Mayors Against Illegal Guns, a coalition of mayors pledging to fight to end gun violence in America. And I've asked Deputy Mayor Wilson and Committeeman Grayzel, who are former mayors, who are also members of Mayors Against Illegal Guns. We are fortunate to have common sense gun laws in the state of New Jersey, but they are not enough. Federal action must be taken to provide consistency, clarity, and safety for all. Fear of going to school, religious services, a movie theater, baseball games, or other public events because of the potential for a mass shooting is intolerable and unacceptable. We are grateful and fortunate to have active volunteers within our community who have made it their mission to stop gun violence. Moms Demand Action, who we'll be recognizing tonight, is a grassroots movement of Americans fighting for public safety measures that can protect people from gun violence. This organization is active in communities like ours to encourage a culture of responsible gun ownership. They know that gun violence is preventable, and they're committed to doing what they can to keep families safe. And I want to thank them for joining us tonight to accept our proclamation. We have Julian Pryor, who's a township president, along with some other members of Moms Demand Action here with us. But before we do that, I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor Wilson for a few words.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight with us. And I'd also like to thank you for the rally that you organized for Saturday. It was really inspiring and it was informative. There were a bunch of different speakers and a lot to be learned, a lot of people there. So that's the kind of event that Moms Demand Action is noted for. And I just want to thank you for doing that. And I think I can speak on behalf of the governing body when I say that we truly support your efforts. We commend your work and we admire your effectiveness. You guys know how to organize and you know how to advocate, and it's really needed. So what I'd like to do is read into the record the proclamation that we have for National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This proclamation recognizes the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the Township of Morris, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we, as a country, must do more to reduce gun violence. Whereas according to the CDC in 2021, the most recent year for which complete data is available, 48,830 people died from gun-related injuries in the United States. That is shocking. And whereas that figure includes gun murders and gun suicides, along with 3 less common types of gun-related deaths tracked by the CDC, those that were accidental, those that involved law enforcement, and those whose circumstances could not be determined. And whereas more than 13,959 Americans have died via gun violence as of May 1st, 2023, including 491 teens and 85 children, and 66 of the average 115 gun deaths each day are suicides. And whereas there have been 184 mass shootings so far in 2023, which is more than 1 per day, and whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries, and whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous and/or abusive histories or mental instability or publicly threatened violence. And whereas governing bodies and law enforcement officers know their communities best and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe, and whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Whereas according to recent surveys, 63% of 18 to 29-year-olds and 60% of Americans favor more stringent gun restrictions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor and Township Committee of Morris Township recognizes the first Friday in June, which is June 2nd, 2023, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And we encourage all citizens to support their local community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value lives. So that's why you're needed, and that's why we appreciate so much what you do. And thank you for being here. Did you want to say something, Jeff? I will have a few more comments later on in the meeting about gun violence.
Good evening, everybody. It's so nice to see some young people in our audience tonight. So thanks for coming out. It's really nice. As Mayor Gyorfy said, when I first became mayor back in 2019, and for those who don't know, our mayor changes from year to year in Morris Township. We don't have an elected mayor. The mayor is appointed from the council of 5 people. So you vote for the council, and then the basically head of the council gets the title of mayor here in Morris Township, different than what happens in Morristown where they elect the mayor. So that's why the mayor changes, and we've all been mayors here, standing here. And one of the first acts when I became mayor in 2019 was to sign on to Mayors Against Illegal Guns, sponsored by Everytown. And I participate in a lot of the webinars that they hold and keep apprised of the actions that they're trying to do to help our country in this respect. And if you've come to these meetings before, you've probably heard me speak about gun violence, because at virtually every single meeting, I start off my commentary about gun violence because it's just so pervasive and it hits us every week. And I don't want people to become immune to it because they hear the news over and over and over again, and it just is meaningless after a while. So I really try to keep it top of mind by mentioning it. And I open those remarks pretty much the same way every week, that my heart continues to be heavy with all the news of gun violence around our country. Earlier this week in New Mexico, an 18-year-old gunman opened fire on a residential street, killing 3 people before police arrived and killed the suspect. 9 other people, including 2 police officers, were injured. This madness must stop. I always try to bring my remarks back around to our community and our state. So here in New Jersey, this past Friday, May 12th, the state honored the life of Deptford Township police officer Robert Bobby Schisler, who suffered a gunshot wound while in the line of duty on March 10th, 2023. Officer Schisler fought for his life for 2 months until he succumbed to the complications from his injuries on May 7th. So you can see that the pervasive gun violence in the country not only affects regular citizens, but it affects the people who are trying to protect us day in and day out, and it makes their job so much harder. So again, I urge everybody in the public not to become immune to the continuing news each and every week of the mass killings. Keep it top of mind, keep your heart heavy, and let's try to make a change in how things work in this country. Thank you.
I'll now ask Jillian and members of Moms Demand Action to come up and say a few words. Sorry to put it too high for you.
I will need the mic much lower. Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Jillian Pryor, and I am a resident of Morris Township and also a volunteer with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. On behalf of Moms Demand Action and Everytown for Gun Safety, thank you for issuing this proclamation for marking June 2nd as Gun Violence Awareness Day in Morris Township and for your continued support of this movement. Moms Demand Action began the day after Sandy Hook when a mother named Shannon Watts created a Facebook page expressing her outrage and pledge to take action. We are now the largest nonpartisan grassroots volunteer organization of more than 10 million volunteers nationwide working towards common sense gun solutions to this epidemic problem that we have here. New Jersey has the largest volunteer group of anywhere in the United States, and that's something that we're really proud of. New Jersey has also been a pioneer in gun violence prevention and is home to many common sense gun laws, such as background checks, a assault weapons ban, and red flag gun laws. It's not a coincidence that we are also have the third lowest rate of gun violence or gun death in the United States. Moving to New Jersey from Ohio, where gun deaths are 3 times higher per 100,000 people, New Jersey's staunch gun legislation is something that's kept me here in New Jersey and in Morris County. We applaud the Council of Morris Township and our mayor, who belongs to Mayors Against Illegal Guns, for joining us as we honor the 48,000 individuals who died from guns last year in the United States. As many of you know, this year, guns became the leading cause of death for American children. This is a uniquely American problem. We have had 184 mass shootings in this year alone. If guns made us safer, we would be the most safe country in the world, but we're not. We have 26 times the rate of gun death as our peer nations. Gun violence has shaken the foundation of our society, from highly visible mass shootings to the daily toll of gun violence that we see from suicides, firearm, domestic violence, and accidents that happen in the privacy of our own homes. For me, it was the mass shooting in Uvalde that motivated me to get involved. It's hard to express the visceral fear, grief, and rage that I felt in that moment and after. The despair that those families face and will face for the rest of their lives shook me to my core. Selfishly, I imagined how easily that could have been my family. Every time I pick up my sons from school, I think about those parents who will never be able to do that again. And I feel so lucky, but also so incredibly scared. This is not a way to live, and it doesn't have to be that way. I say this not to depress you, but to show the importance of the work that you're doing to support this movement is to our local community. Thank you for joining us in recognition of this American crisis. Gun Violence Awareness Day was started by friends of Hadia Pendleton to honor her life and legacy. As her own parents said, by wearing orange, we reaffirm the right of every American to live a life free of gun violence. Since 2015, Moms Demand Action has partnered with Wear Orange to honor her legacy by organizing local, state, and national activities to mark Gun Violence Awareness Day by wearing orange, which was her favorite color. I want to thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts at Moms Demand Action for being such a strong partner in our fight against gun violence. It makes me proud to be a citizen here in Morris Township, to know that you are recognizing and advocating for something that affects our daily lives so greatly. I urge you to keep going and to get involved in our movement. Our collective voices are powerful. We hope to see you on June 3rd, which is the Wear Orange Activities Day in downtown Morristown, and there'll be more information of that to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jillian, and thank you everyone from Moms Demand for coming out tonight. Yeah, we'd love to have you come up. We'll have the proclamation given to you in a little bit. We have it framed, but if you want to come up, we'll take a photo and then we'll move on to our second proclamation. So, yeah, come on.
I want my orange shirt.
Do you have your phone on you?
I don't have a shirt.
I do.
Yeah.
It's not the most common color. I
Jack's gonna
know.
take a photo.
I have no orange.
This is the only orange.
Do you have the proclamation? Any proclamation? Do you have the framed one?
Yes. Yeah.
Something just to hold up? Yeah.
There you go. We have a framed one for you, but
Hey, Howard, good.
yeah. Come on up. Thanks for being a photographer.
He does everything.
Okay.
That should be
Now the other way.
One more, Jack. I got it. Okay. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much.
Do it well.
Mark, do you mind putting that down?
Thank you. I'll now invite Committeewoman Donna Guariglia to come up to present our second proclamation of the evening. I'm gonna lower that down.
Sorry.
It's a bad habit.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I have the pleasure of being able to read the proclamation for Morris Township in Motion, which is an idea that came out of the Morris Township Transportation Advisory Committee. And we have our chairperson, Jim Hunt, and Vice Chair Rick By here tonight, right here in the first row. But along with the other residential volunteers and staff here from the township, we came up with this idea. Actually, a lot of the credit goes to the chairperson, Jim, to get people moving over the next few months from now until Labor Day in the township. Try to drive less and walk and cycle more, and you'll be seeing all kinds of things that we'll be telling everyone, events that they can go to, and we'll talk about a little bit later. But for now, I would like to read the proclamation. Whereas Morris Township has an abundance of parks, trails, and bicycling possibilities. And whereas Morris Township residents and visitors can easily go car-free for a change of pace. And whereas walks, runs, rides, hikes, swims, and other activities improve mobility, the environment, and overall quality of life in our community, and help reduce child and adult obesity. And whereas a variety of transportation choices enhance community health and wellness, and whereas a variety of transportation choices provide a more sustainable future through positive impacts on traffic, economic development, air and water quality, and overall livability. And whereas Morris Township is actively working to plan for the future with improvements for walking, biking, hiking, to improve mobility for all residents, children to seniors, to promote healthy lifestyles and activities. And whereas outdoors activities and events in the spring and summer months offer all of us a chance to explore new choices. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the members of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, hereby complain this season as Morris Township in Motion, and encourages all citizens to take advantage of what we have to offer to improve mobility, and will publicize a list of choices and post information about safety, sharing our roadways, walkways, and trails. Proclaimed and approved this 17th day of May, 2023. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Committeewoman Guariglia. We're now going to move into the first public comment. Rick and Jim, I'm going to move a little bit out of order from the agenda. We have a lot of folks here with us tonight, so we're going to move to the first public portion before we go to your presentation, if that's okay. So members of the public who are here with us in person and online, if you wish to speak, you can start forming a line behind the podium. We'll move it around. We have 10 members of the public joining us on Zoom. We'll take comments from those who are with us in person first and then switch over to Zoom. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand to indicate that you'd like to speak. When you come to the podium or speak on Zoom, please state your name and address first for the record. Please note that your comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker, and if you have questions you'd like answered, your remaining time to speak will be yielded back for this purpose. With that, is there a motion to go out of order on the agenda and open the first public comment period?
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Mayor, I'm going to advise that any of the minors don't have to give their address. They can just state the town they live in.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Okay, you can come on up.
Hello, my name is Brendan Cowan. I live in Morris Township, and I'm a 13-year-old kid who goes to oratory prep, and I'm an altar boy. I've never gotten kicked out of the pool, and I'm rarely talked to by lifeguards, and now I'm not allowed to go to the pool this year. Last year was one of my favorite summers ever. Waking up, fishing, going to the pool, biking around with my friends, and not looking at screens all day. The pool was a really good way to cool off. It was the center of my whole summer. My dad even brags to my friends about how good my summer was last year. Last year, the lifeguards called me and my friends rats. They even called a list that they made of the pool rats. I don't think I'm a rat. I've never done anything to deserve that type of title, and that is how they treated me. They repay us by not letting us go to the pool for the next summer. All I'm asking you is to give us kids another chance, and you won't regret it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan, for coming up for your comments. I appreciate you taking the time. Go
Hello,
ahead.
I'm Patrick from Morris Township. I'm 13, and I go to the pool every summer. Recently, the age requirements to get into this pool have went from 12 years old to 15 years old. I feel that the age requirements to get in this pool alone should go back to 12. Because of this, me and many of my friends' summers are being taken away because frankly, this pool is our whole summer. This leaves many kids with nothing to do because a lot of families don't have parents to take them. Some spend their summer working, and therefore kids can't be taken to the pool. I know your motive is not to take away kids' summer, but unfortunately, that's what's happening. Thank you.
Can I get your name
Thank you,
again?
Patrick. It's Patrick.
Patrick? Yes. Thank you, Patrick.
Hi, I'm Mike Cowan, 64 Lake Road. I appreciate the time to speak. And real quick, I appreciate you all earlier this year. We had a situation, my wife teaches in town. My kids go there and they were in lockdown, and I was at my office unable to do anything because of the suspected gun at St. Elizabeth's. So it can become very real very quick. So thank you. And thank you guys. I mean, Kathy, we spoke in person. I appreciate. Jeff, we spoke in person. I appreciate it. Mark, you called me. I appreciate it. And you've helped me before. I moved to the township 3 years ago, and you guys have been great, like real advocates. I appreciate you. I just disagree with the policy change. They're right. I did used to brag about the summer. I was, you always hear, oh, kids these days, they don't do what we do. We used to not come home until dark. That's what they did, and they can't do it anymore. And I get it, right? Like there were bad apples, but from going to a situation where there was no formal form of enforcing the situation to broad strokes, not allowing 3 grades worth of kids to go to the pool without giving them a chance, I just can't accept that. And I'm hoping you'll be open-minded. How do I put this? Look, I think the pool last year, I was there like every day. Okay. There's a lot of kids who go there. That's the sole purpose of a town pool. Like we owe it to people to provide safe recreational opportunities in the summer. And that's what they do. I think it could have been handled better. All right. That's all I'm going to say. from the tone to how people spoke to the kids. I mean, like you heard, I didn't tell him to say the pool rat thing. He said he's not a rat. I didn't tell him to say that. You call a kid a rat, that's how they're going to act. Like you treat someone like a baby, they're going to act like that. I also like, they didn't get in trouble, but I saw it happening and I get it, but it's like it's a small group of that population, and to throw them all in the same bucket without like a formal program other than a pool rat list, we can do better. And there's some middle ground. My wife called Bill. He said that he spoke to coaches in town and that he heard from this as a bad group of kids. I don't know who he called. I coach all year round. Ken coaches all year round. Mike, Ralph, Mark, the Bradys. I don't know who they called. If they called about the kids, I actually just left a 9-year-old baseball game to come here today. Those two are supposed to be at a baseball game. They left it to come. So the group that I think they're referring to is like a group of a few 15-year-olds. Guess what? They're still going to the pool because they're allowed to per the policy. Are there probably 1 or 2 or 3 or however many in each grade? Yes. But like, I just can't accept taking it away from 3 classes of kids without giving it a shot with some formal warning system. The Dvorak girls right there are about to turn 12. They're not even going to get a chance to prove themselves. We were also told that the pool is being used by parents who simply are just dropping their kids off and they're going. I'll tell you that's mostly untrue. We're all like neighborhood people. So like the kids do exactly what you would want them to do. They have a meetup place. They ride their bikes. They go there. They're Morris Township in motion. They're pedaling there. They're going there. That's exactly what you want them to do. If parents are dropping their kids off who are 12 and older, they're simply doing what they're allowed to do. Okay, a lot of us work in the summer. It's not like we're using it as a babysitter. We're using the facilities the township offers to provide safe and recreational opportunities for the kids. And then we get there. I go on my lunch break or I go after. We're not taking advantage of it. What else do I want to say? Oh, Morristown, Morris Plains. They're still 12. Again, we've made, I appreciate the need for controlling it. I appreciate that's hard to get lifeguards. I appreciate that if it is commotion, we don't want like the lifeguards distracted. I have 2 younger kids too. I want the lifeguards looking at the pool. But from a guy who's there every day, I promise you there's some middle ground between not letting 3 grades worth of kids go to the pool. And it was very mutual. I don't know what the chicken or the egg was, but the tone between the pool and the kids was not one of cooperation. So all I'm saying is this. We have time to think about this again. First strike, you're out, you get a warning. Second strike, we call your parents and you're not allowed back until the parents return our call. Third strike, you get a suspension. Fourth, you're out. It doesn't have to be that, but you get my point. There's something we can do. And if you kick a kid out, you're kicking out an individual. You're not kicking out 3 grades of kids who have the exact summer that you want kids to have. So thank you for your time. That's all.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Mike, you've been really great to work with over the past few years, and thank you for everything with the National League. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Kristen Dvorak. I'm a single mom in Morris Township with 4 kids, age 11 to 15. I'm also, for perspective, a mom of a 15-year-old who has gotten in a little bit of trouble at the pool. So I'll speak to that as well. To go off of what Mike said, I think the proposal is a bit of a knee-jerk blanket approach. It appears to be implemented without a lot of thought. I don't think there's been time or effort taking a look and establishing or reevaluating the pool policies. And I think that if there was time taken to establish what the expected conduct of the members are, and then implementing and establishing consequences, myself as a mom who had a kid that got in a little bit of trouble and kids that enjoy the pool would abide by that. We're signing a member contract. And I think that's the appropriate way to go. And as Mike said, first offense, second offense, third offense. Every time the pool has called me, I have answered the call. I have come down, I've addressed it, not only supported the pool staff, but addressed it at home. And to be honest, as Mike said, it's a two-way street. The interactions were not polite on the other side either. And the most I've heard is like jumping fences because they forgot their card. You know, okay, should they do that? No, then they're disrespectful. But we're not talking about egregious behavior. We're talking about things that need minor adjustment for 15-year-old kids that want to get in the pool and didn't act appropriately. I think it created a domino effect. You know, I guess that's all I really wanted to say. I think the lifeguards and staff are there to protect our members, and I think the community should reevaluate the policy, reset policy and membership guidelines, make sure they're known and implement them, and not blanket approach to the entire community and affect children's summers.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen, for coming up to the podium.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for having us here. I'm Mark Bermudez. I'm at 12 Manor Drive in Morris Township. I also have 4 children who enjoy the pool and enjoy the kind of summer that Mike talked about. And I first of all want to recognize the kids who showed up here today, you know, in support. These 2 boys are missing a game. Mike walked away from a baseball game. I walked away from a high school game. These young ladies who play softball for me are here tonight to show you that this is something that has hit the community pretty hard. I think we were all blindsided by it. We all go to the pool, we all enjoy the pool, and we thank Mr. Frolsch and the group at Loeffler who do what they do to run the pool. But at the same time, you know, if this were going to come about, why wouldn't we maybe discuss a parent committee? Put a group of the parents here. You see them here. You've got Mr. Sharperson here. You've got Mrs. Brady, the Belzanos. You've got Mike Condon here. You've got people from all different walks of life, from law enforcement to businesses to just being parents at home with their children. I remember meeting Bill Frolsch, and I'll do this quickly. I walked in when we moved into the township, and here I am signing my son Tyler up for T-ball, and he yelled out, and I was talking about my 4 kids and how much I couldn't wait to be involved in everything here in the township. And he said, "Hey, would you mind coaching T-ball?" I've never stopped coaching since. Okay, and I've got 4 of them, so I'm coaching pretty much just about every night here, or being a taxi service. I'm looking into a helicopter right now. But maybe we could do something like that. Maybe we could sit down with Loeffler, sit down with Bill, talk about putting a parent committee to get together. Put a committee together to come up with some rules to implement kind of what Mike said, you know, a policy where kids would be held accountable for the behavior. I think a lot of that goes by the wayside today. There's a lot more disrespect than when I was growing up. I know if I said some of the things that I hear kids say today, I don't know that I'd be standing here right now, at least without crutches. So, and I know things have changed, and that's okay. Things evolve and things change, but I think we also have to do that as well. And we have to, we have these wonderful moms here who have organized against gun violence, and you have to put so much thought into that. It was nice to see how emotional she got talking about that. And I think we can all do that. But I'm the same way. I'm as passionate and emotional about all these children in this township. They're an amazing group of kids. We just have great kids in this township. And yeah, we have a few bad apples, but that's something we have to address everywhere. That's nothing new. We met with the pool staff last year. Or I will say I met with the pool staff last year, and I talked about the distractions, and I get it. But you kind of have kids watching kids, right? You've got older brothers and sisters watching younger siblings that they know, they grew up with. They chase these kids around. They babysat for them, right? I mean, so when they're distracted, it's because half the time they're enjoying having these kids talk to them and hang out with them. Calling a kid a rat, that's uncalled for. But it happens, right? They're kids watching kids. So let's kind of take that into consideration too. It's not meant to be malicious towards these kids. We know that. And half the time these lifeguards meet up with these kids at other places. They've been counselors and done other things for them. I'm looking into the program that the township runs, so my older son can be a counselor. My kids go and counsel at the church, okay, for Vacation Bible School. We're very involved. So help us to be more involved by giving us an opportunity to right the wrongs of just a few, not everybody. And And that's all I really have to say. I just hope that you see that we came out. We again, it was kind of quick for us to organize to get here, but we're very passionate, all these parents in the township, to trying to rectify this situation, and we'll work with you the best we can. But we are asking for a chance to do that, please. Thank you so very much for your time and for being here.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for your time.
Hi, good evening. Carrie Brady at 26 Concord Lane. My husband and I have 3 children, a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here to make a few comments. First and foremost, I just want to say and echo what's already been said. Ginty Pool and Streeter Pool have been a very special place for my family and for many of the families that we interact with. I'm so appreciative of the beautiful facilities and all the folks that take care of them, run them. I know the amount of work that goes into it. And as Mr. Bermudez says, we just want to be able to partner and come to the right outcome for the children. So I'm not sure I have all the facts that led up to this decision, to be completely honest, nor do I have any idea what the process is to implement this change. So let me just say that first and foremost, but I'd like to just share 3 points from my perspective. One, I'm sure that kids have misbehaved, as they will. They should be held accountable to follow rules and to be respectful. And I think we're all in agreement on that point. It's already been said, but whether it's at a town pool or it's in a classroom or it's on a sports team, it is typically a small percentage of behavior issues, not the entire population. And I think we really need to examine if punishing 3 grades of adolescence is really called for. Secondly, and this is probably like my biggest point, I have had personal concerns attending Ginty and Streeter Pool the last 2 years, and I am referring to the staffing, and that has also been said this evening. It's not limited to just the teenage employees. So if we're going to have a discussion on accountability of behavior, I really think it needs to consider all sides. And then lastly, there's got to be dozens of other options. There's got to be dozens of different protocols, different processes that can be considered in addition to or as an alternative to what's on the table right now. And I just want to remind this group that these 12 to 15-year-olds had 2 years of their lives really altered due to COVID, right? And I think we quickly forget those years of no birthday parties, no recess, no in-person school, and the list goes on and on. And I would just really ask that this decision be reconsidered so that we're not taking another 3 years away from these children. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie. Are there, seeing there's no one else at the podium, are there any other members of the public on Zoom wishing to speak? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the first public comment period?
So moved, but
I would, well, yeah, I'll
I
talk
would like to
after.
have some discussion.
Correct.
Thank you.
We'll talk about it after we close the public portion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for coming out tonight to talk about this and express your views. We really appreciate it, especially the kids who came out, Brendan and Patrick, especially for coming up to the podium to talk about your stories. I think I talked to a few folks. I know I talked to Mike about it today that I grew up in the township, rode my bike to Streeter Pool all the time as a kid. In the summers, would go to baseball camp run by Craig Schlosser, who's still around, and would go to the pool afterwards. In terms of how the process of how the rules were implemented, or the rule changes were made, that went through the swim pool advisory committee, which is made up of resident volunteers, and they work in consult with the Parks and Rec Department, and they usually give the go-ahead. Bill talks to them, he makes a recommendation, and then they give the sign off. I'm not sure, does that also come through the Township Committee to be implemented, or is just it was through the resolution of the Township Committee. But knowing that there's so much concern about this, I won't say that we're not just gonna hear your comments and do nothing about it. We'll absolutely have further discussions. Myself and Bud Ravitz are on the pool advisory committee with our residents, along with the Parks and Rec Committee. And we're certainly open to having a further discussion with the committee, with Bill Fulch, the Parks and Rec Director, and Mr. Quinn. But if there's other members of the committee who are wishing to speak or provide comments, Bud, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. As being on the Parks and Rec Committee and on the Swim Pool Advisory Committee, I was privy to the conversations that took place in the advisory committee meetings. And I really appreciate, I got to tell you, it was Brendan, Patrick, and the young people who came out to witness, I mean, gave up their evenings and came out to witness how government works. I think that that's commendable to you, and we really appreciate your time and really have taken to heart what you and your folks have said, Mike and Mark and Kerry and Kristen. Just thank you for that. I really encourage folks to give us that feedback, because we need that feedback. We hear feedback from one group, but we don't necessarily get feedback from a larger group. So I would encourage folks to, and I know you're already involved in various sports and clubs and whatnot, to come out to the Parks and Rec Committee meetings and to voice your concern, because we did not hear your concerns last fall when we looked at this. So as the mayor had said, we are not closed-minded. I'm not one that believes in collective punishment for a few bad apples. Perhaps there's another way to look at this, and I appreciate, Mark, what you had said about parent committees and whatnot. We do have the advisory committee, and we would like more people to participate. Maybe some new voices for folks who have actually children that use the pool. But we do want to consider all members of the pool. And last year it got to be pretty disruptive. And Kerry, what you said, really also hit home, that these kids were coming off 2 years of being at home and having to be, perhaps, I don't know if this is the right word, but re-socialized. So it's something that we're going to take back and consider, and I urge you to stay involved. And we'll hear and make a recommendation. It's not going to be right away. I don't want to promise anything, but it's something that we'll discuss for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz. Mr. Grayzel, did you want
to? Sure. So a couple questions. Mr. Canner, you just, I think you just stated that we had a resolution regarding this. Do you know what resolution number that was?
Mr. Quinn reminded me of that before the meeting. I didn't recall that.
It's part of the rules that go with the fees every year. It was done back in February.
So as part of that fee
As part of the
ordinance?
fee structure, it also has the rules of the pool in it.
And so that new rule was listed inside
In that resolution, yes, sir, along with in the brochure.
Okay. Was it a resolution? Is it a resolution or an ordinance? Oh, this year we did it by resolution, right? In past years, we did it by ordinance?
No, it's by resolution.
By resolution. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Ravitz, since you said you participated in the swim pool advisory committee, was there any middle ground that was discussed? Any other suggestions other than going full bore with banning three grades?
The overwhelming consensus was this was a large group of children that were out of control, disrespectful. I think you've probably already heard this, disrespectful to staff, just being very disruptive and presenting a danger to others in the pool. And so this group needed to be dealt with, and we tried to deal with some of them, but ultimately the Swim Pool Advisory Committee had decided, and this is not something that any one person came up with, but as a committee had decided to raise the age.
If I could just add this, Ravitz, it was also based on a lot of the pool members making their concerns to our staff of the disruptiveness of the pool experience. And you may recall, we did have some residents that came in after the pools, came here to the Township Committee meeting to voice their concerns about what had been taking place over the past 2 years with this group of 12 to 14-year-olds and the disruption of the pool environment.
That is correct. There were people that came before the committee to voice their displeasure.
And I'm not a regular pool member, and I'm not on the Recreation or Pool Advisory Committee committee, so I'm not sure how things are enforced, but maybe Tim, you know best. In general, when there's disruptiveness at the pool or bad behavior, how has it been handled in the past? Is it just we keep a list? Do we contact the parents? Do we give out demerits? What's the process?
It usually starts with a timeout. And then
Is it the timeout at the pool?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes to notifying the parents. That's also becoming challenging because oftentimes we can't get a hold of the parents, and we have a person that we have to put out, but we have nobody to pick them up, and they're underage.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it becomes more egregious, then we have issued suspensions of up to a week for more egregious violations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I just want to reiterate with Tim, not taking sides here at all. I'm just trying to figure this out for myself. But Mr. Quinn, just to reiterate, you said that we have an issue. We can't let a kid go from our care and just walk out the gate, when they're underage, right? We have to release them to an adult. And so this is news to me, but that's clearly an issue for you guys to think about and us to figure out as well. If there's disruptiveness, how we deal with a kid when we can't get in touch with the parent is it sounds like a big issue.
It is.
Okay. I had one more question that I can't remember. Did they discuss not maybe 12 or 13 or 4? Why 3 years? Is that the age range that was the problem?
It was targeting the specific individuals in that age group to make sure that those individuals would have to be accompanied by an adult.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. So what do you suggest for next steps?
I would suggest that Mr. Ravitz and I meet with Mr. Quinn and Fulch and have further discussion.
Maybe with the swim pool managers too, who have the experience.
We'll speak with Bill, it's his department, and we'll figure it out from there in terms of who else is participating. But for those of the public, we had heard last summer some concerning comments from other members of the pool. And I think all of us agree we've heard concerning comments tonight from your comments too. That provides additional context for us about your experience with the pool. So we will huddle up as the pool committee and talk at our level, and we'll certainly keep those discussions and talk about them with the rest of the Township Committee. And we'll see if there's, what our next steps would be. We're not in a public comment period now, so I can't take your question, but we do have a second public comment period if anyone wants to provide additional comments at the end of the meeting. As Mike knows, we're all open to talk after the meeting whenever we can schedule time. But as in terms of next steps for us, we'll huddle up and discuss amongst ourselves what the next course of action would be.
I'd like to make one suggestion. First of all, I'm very glad to see everyone here, and I did spend about 20 years as a teacher, social studies, and I'm glad to see the kids participating in your local government and being concerned about an issue and taking steps to address it. That's admirable. And what I'm hearing from this conversation is that the rule that's in place here was made by the Swim Pool Advisory Committee, correct? And also discussed at the Parks and Rec Committee, correct?
At the Advisory Committee.
Full committee.
Okay, so those are the two committees where the discussion of the rule that's now in place took place. And I'm glad to know that that Mr. Ravitz and Mr. Gyorfy and Mr. Falsh will be working on this. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I do know also from my own experience, sometimes you have to stay with the process when you really believe in something. And so I would encourage you to, take a look at the schedule. And if there is a Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, that's an appropriate venue to bring up your concerns for consideration by the people who serve on that committee, just as it's appropriate to bring your concerns here. So I'm glad that you're here, and you've been heard. You brought up a lot of good points, and they'll be considered. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I know that if I was the person that had the concerns, what I just said is what I would do. I would continue coming to the Township Committee and follow the Parks and Rec Committee as well.
Committeewoman Guariglia.
We can't take comments from.
Thank you, Mayor. Just really quickly, I want to say to Brendan and Patrick, we know you're really good kids. We know the kids in Morris Township are good kids. My husband and I raised 4 kids here. I used to go to Streeter Pool all the time. I also realized that over time and with everything that happened with COVID, some things did change. But what I think is really important and what you need to hear, and Committeewoman Kathy Wilson just said, we need to listen to the kids sometimes. I work with a lot of kids from age 6 all the way up through 18. Sometimes we need to listen to the kids. So even especially in things that have to do with parks and recs, sometimes it's not a bad idea to hear what the kids have to say. So please just don't leave this meeting, because I know what it's like for a kid to give up a sporting event, a game, or even a practice. So for you guys coming out here, just remember, we know you're good kids, and we'll see what the outcome of this is. Thanks.
Thank you, Committeewoman Guariglia.
Can I just make one more comment?
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So we appreciate everybody coming out. Everybody on this committee encourages public involvement, public commentary. It helps us shape our policy. We really, really appreciate it. The subcommittees were mentioned, the Swim Pool Advisory Committee. I just looked online. All 6 slots are filled, but those are annual appointments. If you go on our website, and go to the boards and committees tab, there is a volunteer form at the bottom where you can apply to be a volunteer on any board and committee in Morris Township. Those are appointed annually in January. There is one opening. It looks like there's one vacancy on the Parks and Rec Committee right now that we're looking to fill. It says vacancy on our website, so I don't know what the actual status is. But if anybody's interested, I know lots of you guys coach, but if there's another parent that you know who has some time who wants to volunteer, having a parent with school age kids on any of those committees is always really important, really important.
And kind of to piggyback on what Committeeman Grayzel just said, you're always welcome at any meeting. The public is always welcome at a meeting. So even if you don't sit on the advisory committee, you're still welcome to be there and make a comment. So as Committeewoman Wilson had said, we encourage the feedback from the public, and don't let it end here. Keep letting your voices be heard through, contact with the Township Committee and with the various advisory boards.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz. So with that, we're going to continue on with our agenda. We'll be in touch after the meeting. If you wish to stay through the rest of the meeting and speak at the second public comment portion, you're more than welcome to. But we do have to move on to the next item on our agenda. So with that, since we went out of order, I will move back to the approval of the minutes. And our agenda tonight is the approval of the March 15th, 2023 meeting. Is that correct? Or are we approving the April meetings? Just March? Okay.
Yeah.
Do we didn't a vote on that or no?
No, it's
Okay. Okay. All in favor of approving is there a motion to approve the March 15th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Now I'll invite our volunteers from the Transportation Advisory Committee Rick Bai and Jim Hunt to come up to the desk if they wish to provide their annual report for 2022. Jim, you can come and sit with them if you want, or you can stay there. We're all friends here. Okay. Well, you might as well just come up. So feel free to come on up. Whatever you want.
Whatever's comfortable for you.
What? Either one.
Okay. I'll sit down.
At least we don't have to swear you in.
That's right. Okay, thanks. I would like to thank you, Mayor Gyorfy, and the rest of the committee members for inviting us from the TAC to present our summary of our 2022 annual report. I am presenting it. I was the chair in 2022, which is why I'm presenting the report. Jim Hunt is the current chair. He's taken over for 2023. But I am here to present the annual report for 2022.
Rick, can you pull the microphone a little closer?
Okay.
That's better. Thank you.
Is that better? Okay, just as an introduction, I'm sure most of you know, but some of the public that may be on don't know, because there's clearly an issue with the general awareness of advisory committees and what they do, which is, I think, part of our purpose, as I'll talk a little bit about. But as established in 2019, TAC's purpose, the Transportation Advisory Committee, purpose, powers, and duties are to explore, study, and make advisory recommendations regarding ways to improve travel and transportation. They're broadly defined to include walking, bicycling, driving, parking in Morris Township. In studying and making those advisory recommendations, the factors to be considered are safety, convenience, accessibility, and connectivity. TAC operates in cooperation and coordination with the governing body and the administration. We have 2 representatives from the governing body on TAC this year. It's Committeeman Grayzel and Committeewoman Donna Guariglia. And key components of TAC are the representatives of the administration, engineering, Parks and Recreation, and the police. Certainly, the citizen volunteers on the committee are most definitely rely and appreciate the expertise and the past work and accomplishments of those, and I say that their expertise, the past work, and in particular their patience in dealing with this. It doesn't always come through, but it's recognized that that's a big factor. So moving on to specific 2022, a big part of TAC's mission at key task is actually, I think this quotes from the resolution, is to develop methods to obtain and utilize resident input and ensure residents have opportunities to ask questions, make suggestions, contribute actively, and have access to information they need to better understand various issues, situations, and decisions. As part of that and acting on those tasks, TAC has begun to regularly include on its agenda updates from engineering and administration on existing, upcoming, and ongoing projects that are related, engineering, Parks and Recreation, and police, depending on what the particular actions are. These give both TAC members and members of the public who may be sitting on the meetings, either in person or via Zoom, the opportunity to learn about and question and comment on ongoing transportation-related activities. In addition, TAC has requested, in a few cases, more detailed reviews of several projects. In 2022, those included the Normandy Park roadway resurfacing project and the Walnut Street road reconstruction project. These other reviews, more detailed reviews, were planned and scheduled ahead of time to allow TAC to do some community outreach and attempt to boost awareness of the projects that were going on. We recognize, and we've certainly learned, that the township already works with neighborhoods affected by proposed projects in developing specific plans and notifies interested parties once a plan has been drafted and works with them to review that. These TAC reviews were to make plans aware to a broader group of people and perhaps a little in an earlier stage to get community input.
Early public input is a part of the generally a part of recommended complete streets policies, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and certainly sustainable Jersey recommendations. And so in some sense, these served as a trial run to see how and if reviews of this type may be incorporated into a complete streets policy, official township policy. Another part of the communication and information exchange is the website. TAC recognizes that its page on the township website is and should be a key resource for communication and information. In 2021, TAC laid the groundwork for the dedicated web page, working with the township staff and administration. 2022, the look and feel of the web page was substantially improved. We believe, with much more TAC-specific information added directly or linked to on the TAC page, as well as links to information that's related to our mission and purpose that already existed elsewhere on the township website somewhere or on other public websites. Thereby making it easier, the idea of making it easier for people to access information that's there, multiple avenues to get to the same point where information is collected on the website. Improvements and additions to the web page are ongoing. We expect them to be an ongoing process, and to minimize the workload on township staff, because the web pages are not simple to populate and maintain. So we adopted a practice of funneling any website improvement suggestions through kind of a subcommittee of TAC, who reviews the suggestions, compiles any of the, ideally compiling any of the data, links, text, and graphics that might be required, and trying to put that into a form that is compatible with the website so it can easily be added and incorporated. So moving on to complete streets, which is another focus of TAC. In 2021, TAC members spent a fair amount of time reviewing different complete streets policies from across the state and surrounding area, and worked a lot and listened a lot to the township professionals and administration to educate themselves on how Morris Township conducts these things and what aspects of these complete streets policy we already do. And it turns out there's a lot of them. They're just not in a formal policy, but they follow many of the practices. So the goal in 2022 was to develop a recommendation on how Morris Township can develop a formal complete streets policy customized to fit the specific needs and desires of Morris Township. So a TAC special committee for complete streets was formed, and the first step in adopting a complete streets policy is for the governing body to adopt a resolution committing the township to generating a policy. The Complete Streets Subcommittee of TAC drafted a resolution based on models from the State Department of Transportation and Sustainable Jersey, and then reviewed that with township professionals and TAC as a whole. It was approved by TAC, and TAC voted to recommend it to be that this resolution be passed by the governing body, which it was. It was passed as resolution number 148-22 on June 15th, 2022. That just established the resolution that the town was committed to adopting a complete streets policy. So the rest of the year, then the focus came on to the policy itself. Now the township, the township staff and professionals are pretty busy people. So the TAC focused on looking again at model complete streets policies that are from the state DOT and organizations like Sustainable Journey as kind of a baseline, trying to develop and understand what the Morris Township specific policy might look like. By year end, the committee had nearly completed the draft policy, and early on the year, the draft was completed and presented to the township professional staff, and now under their review for revision, adoption, and hopefully adoption, and passed on to the township committee. So that's where that stands. We also offered support in a number of specific projects. I mentioned the Normandy Parkway sidewalk project support. You know, we in 2022, if you recall, the engineering had come up with an administrative number of the Normandy Parkway Road resurfacing project, which included resurfacing and adding sidewalks along one side and connecting also to filling the gap between there and the Morris Museum. These plans were sent off and reviewed by the state and the State Historic Preservation Office because of its Normandy Parkway as being the historic district. And there were some concerns and they wanted some more information. TAC provided a letter of support, produced a letter of support that went in with the township's response to SHPO, stating that the proposed sidewalks, as the TAC's view, the proposed sidewalk would vastly improve connectivity among the several key destinations, including parks, recreation, museums, and public transportation in the northeast section of the township. That the project was entirely consistent with goals and the specific recommendations incorporated in the township master plan dating back to at least 2000. And these goals and specific recommendations in the master plan were very much supported by the results of TAC's 2021 mobility survey. So we're very supportive of this and pleased that it did finally go through. And I'm very pleased at how it's turned out. I think the sidewalks are great, have been done very well. And related to that, because of the safety concerns at the Normandy Parkway Columbia Road intersection, we conducted a walk audit. The TAC conducted a walk audit of looking at the safety issues around that intersection. A group of us spent about an hour and a half at that intersection looking at issues related to pedestrian safety there. The results of the audit were shared with the public via the TAC website and sent directly to various stakeholders, including the township's governing body, engineer and administrator, TAC and the Historic Preservation Committee, the county's traffic engineer, and the State Historic Preservation Office. We felt that it was helpful in clarifying some existing conditions and concerns at the intersection, and identified a range of possible improvements. Also finding that many of the issues and concerns that we addressed or that we identified while we were there had already been considered and dealt with in the plan, in the design for the Normandy Parkway sidewalk. So that was nice. Part of the reason we did this, it served as a learning exercise, certainly served as a learning exercise for future TAC efforts of this type, including one lesson learned is that we really should have a representative of the engineering office on these. We kind of went in with the idea that a citizen's eye view was useful, and it is, but there's some expertise that helps in understanding the situation, why things are there, and what has already been done and being addressed. So that having the engineering staff is an important part. That particular lesson learned was certainly implemented in a recent walk audit that the committeewoman Donna Guariglia undertook with Jim Slate and others of looking at field visits to sidewalk gaps around the township and how they might be addressed and the issues around the possible filling those gaps. So that was a lesson learned going forward from that walk audit of Normandy Parkway and Columbia Road. TAC also also been supportive of the Economic Development Advisory Committee. EDAC has been in the process of conducting their a major Madison Avenue corridor study involving a number of surveys and focus groups intending to assist the township and local business and residents to be better prepared for potential future development proposals along the Madison Avenue corridor. As they were compiling the results of all that, EDAC shared those preliminary results with some of the other township advisory committees, including TAC, and asked for their input. So we looked at the survey results and the results of there and and found that they were entirely consistent with the tax surveys, mobility survey of 2021, in that the respondents were expressing very similar concern about traffic and safety for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers, and the kind of the desired improvements in walkability, accessibility, and connectivity. We stated in our input there that the strongly support for the kind of improvements that were noted there, and noted that for the most part they have been part of the township's master plan since specifically to the Madison corridor since 2007. Our specific recommendations that we placed in there were to fill the sidewalk. There's a few sidewalk gaps between Madison Court and Punch Bowl Road that exist that should be filled in. And we should consider a Madison Avenue crosswalk near Pitney Place for bus stop access. There's a long stretch in there where there are no sidewalks and there's no crosswalk to get to a bus stop that's on the other side of the street. And then longer term to look at extending the Madison Avenue sidewalk network eastward from the Crescent Drive Barbary Road, and then adding Madison Avenue bike lanes, say longer term. And then finally, as part of relative to the proclamation from this evening, in the Morris Township, but we originally had called Morris Township on the Move with bike and walk routes. In 2021, TAC, in cooperation with the Township Police Department and the Parks and Rec Department, sponsored a special 3-week trail event, promoting a safe and well-marked 5-mile trail, roughly 5-mile trail called the Lewoneka Loop around the southeast section of the town, that with connections to many of the recreational activities in that area. In 2022 and last year, we proposed that the Lewoneka Loop be made permanent and better signed, and worked with engineering, the township sign shop, the DPW, and the County of Morris to kind of iron out details and what the budget might be to implement that. Also in 2022, we initiated plans for a similar loop that to be on the other side of town that would incorporate the idea was to incorporate kind of the Fairchild neighborhood and connecting with Fairchild neighborhood with the Streeter Pool, Cornine Field Complex, Fairchild, and Speedwell Avenue. Ideally that would include both bike and walk routes that would be in there. That is kind of underway, but it has evolved into the Morris Township in Motion, subject to tonight's proclamation. So we are, and I would like to use the opportunity here to plug those efforts, and part of that. Committeewoman Guariglia had mentioned some of those, but those activities that we are sponsoring and conducting included Jones Wood Walk, which actually we did last Saturday. Yeah. There will be the upcoming events include a walk of the a guided walk of the Tuckerfield Collinsville area. That's this Saturday on the May 20th at 11 a.m. A revisit and another loop around the Lewoneka Loop bike ride that will be Sunday, the May 28th at 10 a.m. A walk in the Fairchild neighborhood. A guided walk in the Fairchild neighborhood again. That's kind of a preview of this Fairchild loop that we've been working on Saturday, June 3rd at 10 a.m. We will do another Jones Woods walk on the 24th, on Saturday, the 24th of June. That'll be at 1 o'clock. And a walk and a similar kind of walk at Jockey Hollow Top, another area that I don't think is really as well understood or well known as it should be. That will be Saturday, July 8th at 1 o'clock. Also included we've coordinated with the County Parks Department to utilize their their self-guided tours of the Frelinghuysen Arboretum. And all of these have worked to, as part of the program, we have some donated prizes from the County Parks Department, from the libraries, from our own Parks and Recreation Department, series of prizes that participants in these events will then be eligible for a raffle to be held at the end of the summer for some of the prizes that are there. So So that's pretty much our 2022 status, a summary of that. I want to again thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this. I certainly like thanks again to our township professionals for the work with us and teach us a lot, for the quality and the quantity of the work they do, and which I don't think, well, I'm pretty sure that most of the township population is not fully aware of, because until you start to get involved, you don't really realize what's involved. So I'd like to thank all of them again for all their efforts. And I'd like to thank all the TAC members, past and present, for their efforts on behalf of the township. With special thanks to Kathy Wilson, who no longer on TAC this year. She was previously, but not this year. But certainly was instrumental in getting it established in the first place, and a driving force behind its efforts for its first few years of existence. So you have been and will continue to be missed. So I want to thank you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all your work. Certainly Jim Hunt's work as well, and all of TAC. Donna and Jeff were on it this year too. I think the hardest part of TAC, having been a member of it before too, and having this whole list of things we want to do to improve the town, I think the toughest part is being patient, because all these projects take time and take many years of budgeting to get some of these gaps filled in terms of sidewalks. I want to thank you guys for your staunch support for the Normandy Parkway sidewalk project as well, because to me, that was such an important project to make sure we got done, not only to connect the town, but so kids could walk to school. And that's going to have impacts for decades. And I won't name names, but I know people have come up to me who previously opposed the project, who now say it looks great. It's been there the whole time. And it's just a testament of the good work that you do, but also the good work that our engineering department does, and working with the state to make sure it was a project that we could all support, and that turned out best for the township. So I appreciate all the work that TAC does. I love all the walks and the hikes you guys have, and the bike rides. It's an amazing thing. I love that you also worked in some history there with the Collinsville hike with Betty Simmons, talking about the Collinsville history and things like that. Just it's an amazing thing that you guys do. Like you noted, not everyone knows about it. We certainly support your efforts to get that message out to our residents, to understand the good work a lot of our volunteer residents are doing, and all the good work that they're doing to partner with our professionals to get this stuff done. So
I have
I'll turn it
one
over to Kathy.
question on the walks. Did you send out a messenger already, or you're going to? I know I've seen the list somewhere of the
We will
dates and
be, but-
times,
Yeah, no, the first one was kind of before
but it's coming.
before the proclamation, but yes.
Okay.
There's a Facebook and Instagram post that's going up on the recreation.
Oh, I missed that
page,
Instagram.
And
Yeah.
it's getting posted both on the recreation page and the township page on both Facebook and Instagram. It will be up most likely, if not already. I think it's already up on recreation. It'll be up on the administration one tomorrow.
Are we going to send a messenger, or?
We don't do that for those, just the Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
We can send
But
the
it'll
list
be
and
on the
we can figure it out.
website. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to thank Rick. Thank you for chairing TAC last year. Thank you for authoring the report. That just writing the report, as you well know, is a lot of work. And for all the other things you do, leading the trails, working on the trails, the map of the sidewalks. So Rick has really done a lot. And I see Jim Hunt here as well, who's taken over as chair this year. And you two have been just, so prolific in your contributions, and I really appreciate all that you've done. And I have a feeling the Morris Township in Motion may have been, I don't know if that was one of your ideas, but this is a great initiative.
That was Jim's idea.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay. It's a great initiative. So thank you. Thank you for all that you guys do.
May I just say a few words? Of course, you want to come to the microphone? So yes, so folks who are on Zoom can hear you.
Thanks, Rick. It was fabulous.
He's on.
Delivers it very, very well. Thank you.
I wanted to thank the committee, and I think Morris Township is one of the leaders in the state in terms of farsightedness when it comes to an attempt to get a way to use public property, the roads, the trails, the others, in ways that are not just car dependent, but are available to all users and in a safe way. We're doing a lot with the Morris Township in Motion to encourage people to get out. But the safety piece is a huge piece of that as well. Just looking at the New Jersey State Police fatality statistics for this year to date, 63 pedestrians have been killed in the state and 4 cyclists. So the more we do with safety, the more we encourage people to get out and to know that there are other people on the road because they will have been on the road themselves. The chances are that we can continue to move forward to a balanced transportation system in a way that serves all users. And I think the township's been in the forefront of that, the creation of TAC, the way in which planning has been done over the years for the not only the recreational facilities, but looking at connectedness, the way in which the administration and the professionals have embraced many of these ideas even before we started to do these kinds of things. I just want to thank you. Thank you for creating this and the opportunity to continue to get people out and in motion. By the way, Saturday, everybody's invited, including township committee members. So come on over on Saturday, or anybody in the public, come on. You'll be very interested. Many people don't know that neighborhood, and it's very, very interesting, especially the plans for the parks. Again, thank you so much. Thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you, Jim.
Rick.
Thank you, Jim, for your time volunteering on TAC since it started. Thank you, Rick. You're TAC member, planning board chair. What else do you do? PPA. You do a lot for our community. We really appreciate all your work and collaboration. Any other members of the committee have any comments?
I did the Jones Wood tour last year. You were on it. I did it with my wife. It was a really fun tour. It's a beautiful, pristine area of the township. And if anybody hasn't been out to, that part of town, Jones Woods, and that part of Burnham Park, it is gorgeous. And just don't swim in the pond. Please.
Or bring beer.
Or bring beer.
Okay.
Can't swim in the pond?
Or play loud music
Is it
around
illegal?
noon today.
Or you just don't want to do it?
This is what was happening there. So, okay. Well, thank you both. We really appreciate it. With that, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is ordinances for public hearing and adoption. We have 5 ordinances on tonight's agenda. Madam Clerk, if you please read the title of the first ordinance into the record, and we will then open the public hearing.
Ordinance 0623, an ordinance appropriating $500,000 available in the sewer capital fund balance to provide for the Butterworth wastewater treatment plant headworks project by the Township of Morris.
We'll take comments from in-person attendees first and switch over to Zoom for the public hearing of this ordinance. May I please have a motion to open the public hearing?
We have to move it first and a second before we have.
Committee, we've been opening and closing public hearing and then adopting. We've been holding public hearing first.
Okay.
So
moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any member of the public wishing to speak on ordinance 06-23, please come up to the podium or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public comment?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now may I please have a motion to adopt ordinance 06-23?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or points of discussion from the committee? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Ms. Guariglia. Yes. Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 06-23 approved and adopted, and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the second ordinance into the record.
07-23, ordinance appropriating $337,000 available in the General Capital Improvement Fund to provide for various capital improvements by the Township of Morris.
Thank you. May I have a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 07-23?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any member of the public wishing to speak on 07-23, please come to the podium or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I now please have a motion to adopt the ordinance 07-23?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 07-23 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the third ordinance into the record for us.
Ordinance 08-23, bond ordinance providing for swimming pool improvements by the Township of Morris appropriating $5,000.
$595,000.
Thank you. Therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $565,250 bonds or notes of the township or to finance part of the cost thereof.
Thank you. May I please have a motion to open the public hearing for
So moved.
08-23?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any members of the public wishing to provide comment on 08-23, please come to the podium or raise your hand. On Zoom, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public portion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. May I now have a motion to adopt 08-23?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 08-23 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in our official newspaper. Madam Clerk, please read 09-23 into the record.
Bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements by the Township of Morris appropriating the aggregate amount of $4,573,903, therefore including various grants in the aggregate amount of $1,068,669 expected to be received and authorizing the issuance of 3,229,972 bonds.
329.
329, that's right. 972 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Thank you. Is there a motion to open the public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If you're a member of the public wishing to speak on 09-23, please come to the podium or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Will anyone move now to adopt ordinance 09-23?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 09-23 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. Madam Clerk, please read ordinance 10-23 into the record.
Ordinance appropriating $4,178,628 available in the Sewer Utility Capital Improvement Fund to provide for various wastewater treatment plant and sewer systems improvements by the Township of Morris.
Thank you. May I please have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If you're a member of the public wishing to speak on 10-23, please come to the podium or raise your digital hand on Zoom. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I now please have a motion to adopt ordinance 10-23?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes, I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 10-23 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. We are now moving on to ordinances for introduction. We have 4 ordinances for introduction tonight. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the title of the first ordinance into the record.
11-23, an ordinance amending Chapter 57, Land Development, and Chapter 95, Zoning of the Code of the Township of Morris.
Thank you. And since this is just the introduction, we do not have public hearings for this. The public hearings will be at the next meeting. With that, may I please have a motion from a member of the committee to introduce ordinance?
Okay, I'll introduce it, but I do have a question, so I'll move to introduce.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. question or comment?
I guess this is to Mr. Quinn. The reason for the changes in this is because we had a problem in the township that we needed to rectify the code, or was this a recommendation from the planner that the code be changed to accommodate something?
As far as when we had COVID, we established outdoor dining. The current zoning does not permit outdoor dining. So this will, when any applicant had to come before the planning board, they would need a variance for the outdoor dining. This will now establish that outdoor dining is permitted with certain restrictions.
And are there any cases where they're going to need to get permission to do outdoor dining? They have certain space requirements?
Correct. Space
Enclosure requirements?
Yes, they would have to get that, but it's pretty broad that they would be able to meet those requirements with an application to put several tables outside for outdoor dining.
And would the building department, or who would be the one who approves their application?
The planning board.
So it would go before the plan?
Yes, sir.
I would just say this did come out of a planning board application where some members of the planning board brought up why there was not outdoor dining allowed at one of the applications at the Dunkin' Donuts on Madison Avenue. And the existing language in the ordinance was a little confusing. And so our professionals went back, they changed some of it, and there's still an open sort of discussion as to whether, like, the classic outdoor dining is you're outdoors and the waiter comes out and serves you, and that the other sort of topic there is, what if you get your food inside and bring it out and eat outside? Those are sort of those were brought up for discussion last night at the planning board meeting.
That's a great
So
point.
the motivation to change it did come out of the planning board.
So I apologize because of family issues. I didn't have the time to read this ordinance in advance. Does it allow the service of food outdoors? Or are you saying that so sorry if I back up. Previously, anybody who wanted to do outdoor dining had to go to the Board of Adjustment, and now they can go to the planning board?
It was a minor variance. They could also go to the planning board to get the variance.
Okay. So given that Kathy just brought this up about service of food outdoors versus bringing your food outdoors, maybe we should be addressing that in this before the next meeting. I'm just throwing that out
I
there.
believe that is addressed in here. I'd have to go back and.
It does have it in the definition. It does talk about a restaurant and where food is actually served.
Okay. And then when we approved the marketplace up on Hanover Avenue, the mall, we encouraged
Yes.
actually outdoor dining
That's
there.
right.
And so that was part of that approval process.
Right, so that was a redevelopment plan.
That was a redevelopment plan.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's no issues with them doing outdoor dining
No, sir.
there prior to
No,
this
yeah, they got-
ordinance.
That was built into their redevelopment plan when they came before the township committee.
Very good. I just want to make sure. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Grayzel. With that, Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote to introduce this ordinance?
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia. Yes. Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 11-23 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the second ordinance for introduction into the record.
12-23, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, amending chapter 385 of the Township Code.
I will ask for a motion to introduce. After that, I'll ask for just a brief description, either from Mr. Quinn or Mr. Cantor. So with that, is there do I have a motion to introduce ordinance 12-23?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Quinn or Cantor, can you just provide the public with a description of what this ordinance does?
Sure, Mayor. Ordinance 12 and Ordinance 14 are kind of companion ordinances. There was legislation passed which requires properties which are vacant, which is Ordinance 14, or properties which are being put into foreclosure, to register those properties with the township. There's also some notice requirements. And the idea is for the upkeep of the vacant property, it gives the township some tools available to it if the property is not kept up, such as going onto the property and upkeeping it and then charging back. There's also some insurance requirements to the property owners. I think this came out of, there was a period of time when there was a lot of foreclosures and vacant properties, and this is to protect the township from those properties and the residents. And again, it's based on legislation that was passed.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor.
And is this something other towns are doing as well?
Yes, Committee, it's actually a requirement.
It's a requirement by the legislature that every town pass such an ordinance?
That every town require that vacant land be registered with the township.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the description. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Griglia,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 12-23 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the third ordinance for introduction.
13-23, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, amending Chapter 95, zoning of the Code of the Township of Morris.
Thank you. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 13-23?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Griglia,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 13-23 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please read the next ordinance into the record.
14-23, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, amending Chapter 385 of the Township Code.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there may I please have a motion to introduce 14-23?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cantor, do you want to provide an overview of this ordinance too, please?
Yes, Mayor. This was the companion to 12. This is
sorry.
the same. This is for the vacant properties, and ordinance 12 was for the foreclosed properties, but they essentially do the same thing.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Griglia,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 14-23 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. Moving on to resolutions for the evening. We have 12 resolutions on the agenda. I will be recusing myself from resolution 15-23 as it pertains to my fire company. I will request that Deputy Mayor Ravitz handle the vote on this resolution. Do you have a question, Mr. Grayzel?
I have two questions on two resolutions. Should I ask them now or should we introduce first?
Let's introduce.
Oh, do you want to pull those two? Which?
I don't have to pull them. I just want to have.
You can ask them now. Ask the question now if you want.
So on 113, which is the purchase of munitions by the police department. Mr. Quinn, I was just wondering, has the cost of munitions gone up this year along with all the other costs that we've faced?
We're not seeing significant increases in the cost of ammunition. It's been steady for the last several years.
Okay. And is the expenditures this year in line with what we've done in the past few years?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay.
There was no increase in the budget line for ammunition this year.
Very good. And the reason, this is a reminder that it's a resolution versus just the department being allowed to purchase them themselves is because it exceeds
$17,000.
the $17,000 threshold?
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the other question I have is with 116, also related to the police department, that I know that we tried to get the two police vehicles previously. There are none available. And so this is authorizing the purchasing agent to go out and negotiate a contract where?
We can, with that, whatever dealership we can now. Unfortunately, there are no police vehicles on the state contracts or the co-ops. So we're unable to purchase off of that. So we put out the bid for 2 times. After the second bid and there's no response, then we are able to go out and negotiate with a vendor to provide the vehicles to us.
And does that next step have to be just in state, or can we look anywhere in the country?
We primarily we would go in state. We do have a national co-op, but It's going to be primarily in state.
Okay. And then when they negotiate a contract, obviously it's outside the state, and negotiate a price, it's outside the state contract.
There is no
Then it-
state contract.
Right. Does it come back to us again for approval of the purchase?
Yes.
Or does this authorize the purchase too?
No, we'll
This just
come back
authorizes the negotiation.
Correct. And once we are able to make that purchase because of the cost, there will be another one or two, maybe three resolutions for your consideration for the purchase.
Very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
No more questions.
And the negotiations will be for the hybrid interceptors, which we started transitioning to if we can get them.
Yep.
It's been very difficult to get, but that's the preference.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. Challenging.
Yeah, challenging.
Okay, so then may I please have a motion to approve resolution numbers 107-23 through 114-23 and 116-23 through 118-23 by one motion.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes, I will turn it over to Deputy Mayor Ravitz.
Okay, can I have a motion to adopt resolution number 115-23?
So moved.
Second, anybody?
You don't want to give us money, I guess.
Anybody? Second? Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Miss Wilson, yes.
Sorry. Ms. Wilson.
Getting late.
Thank you.
And
And Hillside thanks you for allowing us to fix our retaining wall. Consent calendar, we have 3 items on the consent calendar this evening. May I please have a motion to approve them, all items on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Is it all in favor?
Aye.
Consideration of monthly reports. We've received reports from the tax collector, joint court, and library for April 2023, and the fire monthly report for March 2023. May I please have a motion to approve these monthly reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Claims for payment. Our total amount of bills and vouchers for this meeting is $13,445,093.11. As a reminder to the public who are joining us, we are also the tax collector for the school district, the library, and the county of Morris. May I please have a motion to approve the list of bills and vouchers?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
and Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. We have no items received for the record this evening, so we'll move right into standing committee reports and commentary by members of the Township Committee. And I will turn it over to Committeewoman Guariglia.
Thank you, Mayor. On the committee reports, I think that Committeeman Jeffery Grayzel might have a little bit more to add on the Economic Development Advisory Committee. I actually was out of town, but I did just want to say Megan Hunsher, the President and CEO of Morris County Chamber of Commerce, MCDC of Morris County. And the Chamber supports business growth and attraction through the Economic Development Corporation Division and partners with Morris County Tourism to promote Morris County's businesses and communities. And she came to speak at the EDAC meeting. Altogether, there are over 900 member organizations. We will continue to work on connecting our businesses with the resources to support business retention and expansion that fits within our community. Data will be provided. We'll work with our tax assessor, Kathy Villarango, and we'll share information. Megan did say, quote, "We have a great balance of residential and commercial development." The Transportation Advisory Committee, I wish Rick By was here. I feel like thanking him. He gave my whole update pretty much in his report. But just a couple other things to mention that he may have not mentioned on Morris Township in Motion. We are going to look at doing some senior walks for those that are a little bit older. Those walks will be on smooth surfaces where people can get around a little easier, and they'll be a little shorter. We're also going to look at doing a bike rodeo for kids, which we run with the help of a police officer so that kids learn safety and different things about riding their bikes. There'll be some self-guided phone tours and the big tree tour at the Frelinghuysen Arboretum. And all these events will be posted through Labor Day. We also have a new TAC banner that's here, but I don't think anybody's seen it yet, have they, Tim?
Get it.
Wow.
You don't have to go get it. I thought I should have asked you earlier, but it was very nicely done. While Tim goes to get it, I'll keep going and then he can bring it in. We also had such
This is part of the TAC exercise plan for tonight.
right for mobility and motion.
This is part of the mobility
For
plan for each town.
mobility and motion.
Right, okay.
It was in motion in 7 states, 11 days, bike,
All right.
On
car.
Yep, on the Unity Tour. Again, just want to congratulate TAC on the farmers market success. Our subcommittee reports were given on cycling, driving, parking, and walking. And we also talked about mapping options. That'll show EV locations, bus stops, parks, playgrounds, and they will be published and coming out soon. I think, again, Rick talked about a lot of the things that are on here. One other thing I wanted to just bring up to everybody. We did have a resident who had an issue, and he actually came to town hall, but he was invited to come to the TAC meeting. So he showed up at the TAC meeting. And when he came in, he was very polite. He sat down and he said, look, I already expressed my issue, but I was invited to come and I want to sit here and listen to the TAC meeting. So when it was over and Chairman Jim Hunt said to him, do you have any comments? He said, yes. He said, I'd like to say it's very evident that the TAC group has a lot of talent and expertise, and through collaboration with the professionals, continues to provide improvements for the township. So that was really important to those of us in that room. And I urge all residents, which you heard earlier tonight too, to please attend these meetings. And I think there's so much that residents don't realize what good work is being done. And to hear someone, he did end his comments saying, I still don't know if my issue will get resolved, but he was very accepting and really appreciated all the work that was done. Do you want to unveil the?
I have to do it with you. I mean,
Oh, okay. Should I finish first or?
Finish first.
Okay. Okay. And then also just wanted to let everybody know, Committeeman Jeff Grayzel and I have a tour with Superintendent Mark Howarth on May 31st of the Butterworth Treatment Plant, and Committeewoman Kathy Wilson is also going to attend. My commentary, I have to admit, I think May is the busiest month for designating recognition for so many things. It's like such a long list. So I'm briefly going to mention a few. This week is National Police Week, which is when we remember and honor law enforcement officers for their service and sacrifices, and remember those killed or disabled in the line of duty. I want to express my thanks and appreciation for the Morris Township Police Department, which is one of the very best. Another big issue in May is mental health. Rick talked about earlier the Jones Pond Trail hike, and I did that. And in keeping with our Morris Township motion theme, it was a great way to feel both physically and mentally better and get outside and move. I encourage all residents to make an effort and take advantage of all the options we have for the next few months for people of all ages. There are so many great things going on outdoors, and soon the pools will open. We have baseball, pickleball, and all of our parks and rec activities in full swing. On a more somber note, but still due to the mental health issue, is the issue we heard tonight about gun violence. Morris Township is well equipped to respond to any type of gun violence, and as one of your elected officials, I want you to know my dedication to help end the fear and anxiety, especially in our children and caregivers, including teachers, daycare workers, police, and emergency responders, will be there always. At every level, we continue to provide the safest, most protected environment for all who live here. And lastly, I want to mention Memorial Day, which falls at the end of the month of May. While we all get together to have family barbecues and kick off the summer, let's remember all those who lost their lives in battle. In the U.S., the tradition of wearing poppies is used because it is when we honor the men and women who died fighting for our country. The poppy is a symbol of remembrance and hope, including hope for a positive future and peaceful world, which I do believe we will ultimately get back to preserving. And to just tie up, this is very short, I am going to read the poem by John McCrae, who's actually a Canadian soldier, doctor, and poet, that he wrote about the battle on April 15th of 915 in Belgium. In Flanders fields. In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. If you can, please join us at 10 a.m. on Memorial Day at Town Hall to honor all those who fought for our country. Thank you.
Jack, you want to do this with Donna?
Yeah. Go on up there.
Wow.
Where will the banner be? Where's it going?
It'll be at the events that are held.
There you go. Well, yeah, he's got the camera. He'll zoom in on you if he can get you. But very nice.
Great.
Very nice.
And then if we attack again at the farmers markets, those types of places.
Lovely. Very nice. Thank you all for your work on that. And Mr. Grayzel, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just to use a pun, I'll tack on to Donna's comments on EDAC. In participating in the Economic Development Advisory Committee, she did mention that Megan Huncher, the president of Morris County Economic Development Commission, appeared before us. We had a very, very lengthy discussion on a number of topics. She gave us a lot of food for thought, and I'm a big proponent of moving forward and trying new things and I don't mind being first in doing anything. And the Morris County Economic Development Commission is looking at a number of projects to roll out, and I offered up Morris Township being a partner for them to be a test case for, and raising our hand to go first in working with them on some of their initiatives. So I hope they take us up on that. Donna did mention that Megan reinforce something that I always say, is that Morris Township has a great balance between the residential tax base and the economic tax base, the commercial tax base. And we want to keep that commercial tax base healthy to keep the pressure off the residential portion of the tax bill. And that's why the work of the Economic Development Advisory Commission is so important to the community here. As chair of the Police Department Oversight Committee, wanted to let the public know that we have 2 openings for officers in the department. One is due to a retirement, and the other because an officer left us to join the police department in his hometown. Interviews are being set up for later this month, and I look forward to interviewing the candidates along with Deputy Mayor Kathy Wilson, who is my co-member on the Oversight Committee. That's it for my standing committee reports. Donna reported on the sewer for us. So in my general commentary, I made my comments on gun violence already. The Morris Museum announced that it has appointed Tom Lohman as its next executive director. Mr. Lohman is a global arts professional with extensive experience in museum management. He was born in Morristown, New Jersey, and he is a graduate of the Del Barton School here in Morris Township in 1989. He went on to get his PhD from Rutgers University, and I wish Tom well in his new position. This Saturday, May 20th, there is a household hazardous waste drop-off event at the County Public Safety Academy on Hanover Avenue. The event runs from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and more information can be found on the municipal website. But this is a great opportunity for any materials in your garage that you've been accumulating that might be hazardous to get them out of your house. Primary election is coming up on Tuesday, June 6th. If you are a voter in districts 7, 16, 9, or 22, then please see the notice on the municipal website about voting location changes that might affect you. My colleague Bud Ravitz is on the ballot this year, and I really would like to wish him well in his reelection efforts. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Grayzel. Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you. Oops, okay. So I would like to share a couple of points about the Environment Standing Committee. We have an accomplishment that we're very proud of. A pollinator garden at Butterworth Park has been completed. We are planning a ribbon cutting for that. We have a tentative date, but it's not final, so I'm going to hold on announcing that until a little later. We're looking at early June. And I did want to just say kudos to Charlie Shatner, who really, he spearheaded this effort. He had the vision, he wrote the grant, he purchased the plants, he assembled a team of volunteers that dig all the holes, and the garden is now ready to serve as a thriving source of pollinator activity. So I hope everyone will join us when we do have the opening day. I'd also like to highlight that on June 3rd, Harmonium, which is a local choral group, will be performing a concert called Earth Songs. The concert will include choral music that celebrates nature's beauty and calls for its preservation. In recognition of our shared interests as environmental stewards, Harmonium has invited our EC, along with the Great Swamp, the Friends of Drew Forest, and Morristown's Shade Tree Commission to have tables at the concert where we'll all have the opportunity to interact with the public and share information about all the different initiatives each of these groups is working on. If you've never seen Harmonium, they're fantastically talented. Their music is beautiful. They'll be doing 2 performances of the Earth Songs concert, one on Saturday, June 3rd at 7:30 p.m., the other on Sunday, June 4th at 3 p.m., both in the Methodist Church in Morristown. And I encourage everyone to attend. On our Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, CCAC, CCAC is continuing its work of gathering input on the needs and interests of our town's 6,800 residents aged 60 and over, and recommending ways to address those needs. The first step in gathering input was the needs survey, which officially closed on April 15th and garnered about 600 responses. CCAC is in the process of analyzing those results and determining next steps and how they will use them and how the results will be shared with the public. As an additional step in clarifying the needs and interests of our senior population, CCAC is also working to plan a focus group event for the fall. This is a big job, but in my opinion, it's worth the effort. Focus groups are a very different way to gather input. It's an experience that was really helpful and much appreciated by all when our Economic Development Committee did it last year. So more to come on the focus groups coming out of our seniors committee. Another big job that CCAC is tackling is getting the website up. There's a ton of information to sort and organize, as Donna knows. I want to thank Donna for working with me and CCAC member Mary Vole on this project. We are making good progress, and we're hoping to do an initial posting within the next couple of weeks. Donna and I are both really grateful to Mary for the yeoman's work that she's done to move this project forward. And finally, I want to reiterate that as part of its Morris Township in Motion initiative, TAC's going to be offering a couple of walks, especially for seniors. So be on the lookout for that, and we're really appreciative of that. So on my township committee comments, I would like to just thank TAC again. I love all the stuff that you're doing, and especially this Morris Township in Motion initiative, and I encourage everybody to participate. I did want to make a couple of additional comments about gun violence. When I think of all the madness going on in our country with gun violence, a few things stand out to me. I agree with the sentiment expressed by so many at Saturday's Moms Demand Action rally. We've come to a point where thoughts and prayers for victims are not enough. We need action. We need change. For me, this speaks to the adage from the Bible, actually, faith without works is dead. We do have a mental health problem in this country, but we also have a gun problem. It's not either or, it's both. The lack of even basic regulation is pretty shocking. The comparison I like is the process we use to allow someone to drive a car. You have to get a license. You have to demonstrate basic understanding of safety rules and basic competence in operating the vehicle. How can it be that we don't have something comparable for guns? That in too many states, we allow people to buy guns of all sorts, including weapons of war, with virtually no oversight at all. I'm glad to live in a state that has strict gun laws. I'm glad to live in a state where our lawmakers in Washington get the need for common sense gun regulation. And it's really clear to me that guns are an issue for which national legislation is needed. If I lived in a state whose legislators refuse to admit that guns are a problem that need our attention, I'd be doing everything I could to get those people out of office. It's true that we can't legislate our way out of every situation where someone chooses to use a gun to kill people. But as a country, we can and should do better than what we're doing now, which is pretty much nothing at all. My hope and prayer is that with the help of advocacy groups like Moms Demand Action and others, that we can, as a country, begin to move in that direction. Just a couple of quick comments about Memorial Day activities. I look forward to them. We're having our 10 o'clock service here at Town Hall, 11 o'clock on the green, the parade going from here to the green. And I also just wanted to highlight the wreath-laying ceremonies that will take place at various monuments around town. We have a lot of history here. And thanks to Mayor Gyorfy, who encouraged many of us to do this last year. I did it last year for the first time. I found it really moving and memorable. And we do make it available to the public, but we do ask people to RSVP. So we're sure we have enough transportation for everyone. So I encourage everyone to think about joining us, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wilson. Deputy Mayor Ravitz.
Thank you, Mayor. Wow, still members of the audience here. You diehards. I love it. Do you want to become elected officials now? Now that you see how government works? Well, I applaud you sticking through it. Some of it can be a little tedious, even to us here on the dais. So good evening, and thank you for your participation in our local community government. National politics may get all the spotlight, but it's what we do here locally that has the biggest economic and quality of life impact on our lives. But these certainly aren't, typical times. And I'll apologize in advance for running slightly longer this evening with my updates and commentary. There's a lot to talk about. Especially when it comes to Parks and Rec. Pool registration continues to be open for new and returning members. Lifeguards and managers are desperately needed. So if you or someone you know is looking for a fun summer job, the pay is excellent and training will be provided. I'm pleased to report that early bird pool memberships exceeded those of 2022. Pool registration remains open for new and returning members. Moving on, thanks to Steve Trachtenberg for again volunteering to run the department's tree seedling giveaway. Steve and his volunteers were able to distribute 320 seedlings of 5 different species in about 2.5 hours on Saturday, April 22nd. This was Steve's fourth year on the project, and we should all thank him for his extraordinary commitment to the program. Our Parks Division also recently planted 6 native trees at the Burnham Park Green Strip in honor of the Burnham Park Association's 75th anniversary. We have unfortunately lost a large number of ash trees in town and on this parcel as well, and this was our first direct replanting to offset those losses. For our annual Arbor Day tree planting, we planted 4 native flowering trees at Ginty Field with the assistance of the Woodland School first grade class, and which is a long-standing tradition for the Woodland School students. Moving on, we are taking registrations for 2 Parks and Rec Advisory Committee organized trips under the leadership of Sam Pagano. We have a day trip to Coney Island scheduled for June 11th, and we need to increase our registration totals to make this trip a go. We'll be visiting the beach, the boardwalk, and rides, and catch some of the Mets affiliate team game, the Brooklyn Cyclones, and the cost is $45 and includes the bus trip. Go Mets. We also have New York Yankees versus Houston Astros game open for registration, and that'll be on August 5th at 1 p.m. The cost for that is $75 for the bus and the ticket to the game. Go Yankees. I live in a Mets and Yankees household, so I have to say both. We've also reserved patio space at the Somerset Patriots game on the evening of July 7th. The Patriots, as you may or may not know, are the New York Yankees AA affiliate, where many players go to do their rehab before rejoining the Yankees main squad. Cost for that is $35 and includes the ticket, barbecue, and fireworks after the game. And that's what I have to say about my committee updates, and I'll move on to my public commentary. I'm going to basically be restating a lot of what we've heard tonight, but I'll say them in my words. I have to shake my head with disgust each day when I read about another mass shooting in our country. 184 of them from January 1st to May 1st, and that's more than 1 per day. It's an epidemic that's simply not being addressed. Violent rhetoric spewed by white Christian nationalists on social media is targeting our fellow Americans, whether they be non-white, Jews, women, LGBTQ+. It's horrible. People with mental health issues are still allowed to own firearms. Domestic abusers are allowed to own guns. Where does it end? How many more of us must die before something substantive is done to combat this epidemic? Is it a question of how many more have to die? How many more families must grieve? Or is it just a matter of the prominence of the family who has suffered a senseless loss? In 1993, President Clinton signed into law the Brady Bill. For most of us, the bill didn't go far enough because it didn't regulate the secondary market. And though there's debate on the effectiveness of the bill, gun violence homicides did decline from 1994 through 2000. Based on several analyses of CDC data, gun violence is the leading cause of death between children between the ages of 1 and 19. 1 and 19. Let that sink in. From 2019 to 2020, the relative increase in the rate of firearm-related deaths of all types, which includes suicide, homicide, unintentional, and undetermined, among children and adolescents was 29.5%, which is more than twice as high as the relative increase in the general population. A federal assault weapon ban was highly effective in reducing public mass shootings, reported a 2021 Northwestern Medicine study. The study found that a federal assault weapons ban that included a ban on large capacity magazines, meaning it's limiting the number and caliber of bullets, from 1994 to 2004 resulted in a significant decrease in public mass shootings, the number of gun deaths, and the number of gun injuries. The number of mass shootings has skyrocketed since the federal assault weapons ban ended in 2004. Enough is enough. We must stop senseless gun violence through better, more comprehensive legislation that provides for sensible restrictions that the majority of Americans favor. And lastly, on this, it's still quite noteworthy, is that according to the surveys, 63% of 18 to 29-year-olds and 60% of Americans overall favor more stringent gun restrictions. And that is a good segue to the upcoming primary election on June 6th. The very least we can do is to show up to vote. This year is what's considered to be an off year, and at the top of the ballot in New Jersey is New Jersey State Senate. It's historically a low voter turnout year. I hope Morris Township residents buck the historical trend and show up to vote in higher numbers than is typical for such an election. If we want better government, we must be better citizens. We must be informed and we must be engaged. We're all tired of the bitter divisions of politics and our elections, but our democracy and our republic needs us. As always, I like to end my commentary with the following. Let's not marginalize or demonize the people who have less political or economic power than some of us currently enjoy. Rather, let's face up to and stand up to those who continue to profit from our division. We have more in common than should ever divide us, but we have to talk to and not at each other. Amplifying misinformation, hateful or violent rhetoric is not part of any civil political discourse. And remember, as you go about your business each and every day, to just be kind. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others, because kindness ripples. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Ravitz.
I would like to note an imbalance in the activities between the Mets and the Yankees, and I take issue with that. We need to have a balance.
Well, one Mets game? Well,
no,
we'll do a Mets balance.
Yeah.
I'll bring
okay.
it up at the next advisory committee.
Okay, thank you.
I guess at least we can both say we've lost to the Rays in the past few weeks.
Yes.
So. First, I'd just like to thank Jillian Pryor from Moms Demand Action for being with us tonight and speaking and having the courage not only to speak out here at our committee meeting and to the public here, but also out into the broader public and across Morris County and across our state. Everyone's spoken about this issue. I'm not going to belabor it, but it's incredibly important to all of us here on the committee. And we know it's incredibly important to a lot of us in the township. I've said before, going through college, a lot of the, like one of the stories in college is you have your nightmares that you miss your last day of finals or you forgot to submit a paper or what have you, and people still get that. And I know firsthand, and many others who were students with me in college after these mass shootings, was the nightmares instead were about being locked, stuck in a classroom when there's a person with a gun on campus. And we've had that issue where I went to school, and it happens way too frequently, and it's horrible. So thank you for all the work that you're doing to try to promote common sense gun legislation across the country. Some of the work that I've been working on with Mr. Ravitz has been said, so I'm not going to go over that. I did want to note two things, though, as we're in May with Memorial Day coming up. Deputy Mayor Wilson talked about we have our services on Memorial Day. We encourage the public. We put a municipal messenger out earlier this week to join us for the wreath laying starting at 7:30 in the morning here at the municipal building. We'll have refreshments and coffee, and then we'll go out to visit a number of the memorials across Morristown and Morris Township with our veterans. Deputy Mayor Wilson said, they're moving services. There's there's a short ceremony, there's a wreath laying, there's taps, and there's a firing squad salute. So we had a few members of the public join us last year for Veterans Day. And she asked us to please make sure we continue inviting the public to join it because she was very moved by it. And so we just encourage all members of the public to join us in the Veterans on Memorial Day. If you can't make it that early, we'll be here at 10 a.m. and then we'll march over to the green at 10:30. Secondly, in working with the veterans, I know this was an initiative that Mr. Grayzel worked on along with Mrs. Wilson, was to honor our veterans with banners across Morris Township. So earlier this month, Mr. Quinn and I met with members of the veterans associations in Morris Township, American Legion, the Memorial Day and Veterans Day Association, and the Daughters of the American Revolution to restart that process of trying to honor our veterans with having banners across Morris Township. We're optimistic about being able to have some banners on township properties by Veterans Day, and we're very much looking forward to putting this project together and implementing it over the summer. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll have more information on that, and residents of Morris Township can purchase a banner to honor a loved one or a neighbor or a friend who is a Morris Township resident who served in the military. And we will have banners across township properties here at Town Hall, Convent Station, and elsewhere where we have lampposts that we can display them. So with that, I will leave it at that as it's late. Yes.
Sorry, I forgot one comment. If you'd allow me another extra minute.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And I thank you to the public for sticking around. There's one thing I didn't write down that I wanted to mention. Earlier tonight, I mentioned the police officer in Deptford Township that was shot on the line of duty. I just wanted to acknowledge our township administrator, Mr. Quinn, for the work that he does outside of the municipality with the Police Unity Tour. Police Unity Tour raises money and funds for the police officers that are killed in the line of duty. Mr. Quinn mentioned that he was just in a number of states over the last week. That was because the Police Unity Tour came through Morris Township last Tuesday on its way down to Washington, D.C. for their annual ride. And Mr. Quinn is the treasurer, I believe, of the local chapter here in this area, correct? Yes. For national too. So I just want to acknowledge the work that Mr. Quinn does outside of his work here in Morris Township to support fallen police officers. I think it's a great thing that you do, and it deserves acknowledgement. So thank you, sir.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Mr. Grayzel, for noting that. With that, we will move on to our second public comment period. There are currently 10 members of the public on our Zoom meeting, and additionally, we have members of the public in person. We will now open the meeting. If you wish to speak, please state your name and address. Before you speak, please note that comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. If you have questions that you would like answered, your remaining time will be yielded back for this purpose. If you're on Zoom, please raise your digital hand. We'll start with members of the public who are here in person first, and then move to folks who are joining us virtually. So may I please have a motion to open the second public comment period?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi, it's Kristen Dvorak again, and I just have a few comments, but my girls were inspired.
Can you just close to them?
Oh,
Thank you.
I have a few comments, but my girls were inspired to say something quickly first before I do. So
Okay.
go ahead, Zoe. Here's your notes. Or Hallie, go ahead.
Please just speak into the mic so folks online can hear.
Just your first name.
Sorry. My name's Hallie. I live here in Morristown. And I've been going to Streeter Pool for like years now, like when I was like really little. And I just find it like upsetting that people like my age, like little kids, under 15 years old, cannot go to the pool and have fun. Streeter Pool is where kids like me feel free and have lots of fun cooling down in the pool and doing some of the many activities that you can do there. It's also the kind of place where parents can drop off their kids to play, which lets the parents work and have some time to themselves when their kids are busy playing. I understand some kids around my age, may misbehave and be disrespectful to the staff and deserve to have a temporary consequence after their offenses. But Streeter makes up my whole summer, and I just wish they could reconsider this new rule and open the pool for every individual who would like to go.
Thank you so much for coming up.
Thank you, Hal.
Go ahead. Say your name.
I know. Hi, my name is Zoe. I'm 11 years old, so that means I can't go without a parent. And sometimes my mom is so busy doing her own things that sometimes she can't take us. So that means this year I can't go to Streeter as much. And I would like to go to Streeter all the time. I would like to go to Streeter because I used to go all the time and I would ride my bikes there with all my friends and we would have so much fun. We would go there every day until it closes, and I know that there's some people that cause like problems at Streeter, but I'm not one of those people. And just because one person or a group of people does something doesn't mean that everyone else gets to be punished for stuff they don't do. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming up.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for allowing her to speak. So just to kind of reiterate, I am a working mom. I feel happy that my kids are safe, off gaming, outside, moving, at the pool. And I think I mentioned before, I have a 15-year-old son who's probably named in that group. And I am a caring parent that cares about shaping my son, making sure he's following policy. But I have to say, I think the consequence that I guess it was Mr. Quinn outlined, he may be misinformed. I don't believe kind of the policy of consequence was followed. I know I've been called, I've come down. I'm not even sure what policy was broken half the time. It seemed like there's a group of boys. I can't even say like what was broken. I know that there was a jumping the fence because of the card was not in his pocket and I couldn't leave my work call to bring the card. So there was a jumping of the fence. But I have to say, when, I jumped a fence when I was a kid. Should he be, should he have had a consequence? Yes. I'll talk to him. He can be kicked out of the pool for the day. But to punish the community and all these kids that are engaging in healthy activities, I just think it's wrong. And I encourage, again, reshaping the policy, clearly laying out the expectations of code of conduct for the members, the kids, and enforcing them with consequences. I think doing the same as the group said too for the staff. What can we expect for the staff? I think Mr. Ravitz talked about talking to people and not at people. And I think that's something that we could learn on both sides of the equation with this pool environment, what I've seen. The last thing I want to say is kids make mistakes, but these same kids in this group that you're referring to, where there was adult chatter between coaches and community, these are the kids, I know them, my son's one of them and the friends. These are the kids that were your Little League All-Stars. These are the kids that are participating on your football teams. They are in the honors classes at Morristown High School, and they make mistakes. They need guidelines, they need steering, they need consequence. But a blanket statement without very much thought to eliminate their entire summer of freedom and the people that didn't, do those wrongs is just not right. And I, as a parent of one of those kids who's made those mistakes, am committed to partner with the pool, with the community, to make sure that everybody's environment is safe and enjoyable. I want our family to have an enjoyable summer and the people around us and the guards. So I really, truly ask you to reconsider this policy.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Mike Cowan, 64 Lake Road again. First, thanks for being so nice to my kids. They were nervous about doing it. I mean, that was, I appreciate it. I do. That was cool for them. They learned a lot. I learned a lot. I'll refer to my notes just to make good use of everyone's time. It's late. Mr. Ravitz, do you recall how many issues there were and how many kids were suspended this past summer from the school at pool?
That number I don't have off the top of my head. Mr. Quinn, do you recall?
Is it that you don't have it off the top of your head or that it's not recorded somewhere?
It is recorded.
I'd be curious to know what it is when you have your follow-up. If there's 90 or so pool, I doubt it's recorded, but maybe it is. I'd be curious to know what that number was, and maybe we can look at that holistically with the 90 days of pool activity, how large that number was that we decided it was necessary to ban all kids for 3 grades.
Understandable.
Thank you. My next question is, I'm embarrassed on this one. I'm actually pretty involved in town. I don't know about the pool advisory committee, and maybe that's feedback for you that someone who's really involved in town doesn't know the pool advisory committee exists. Can you just please tell me what it is, just high level, what it is, how many seats are on it, who's on it? Is there any representation from parents with families on it?
I'll pull it up. Swim Pool Advisory
If you go under the township website and go into government, on the government tab, you'll see a tab that's called boards and committees. You can see all the boards and committees that we have in the municipality.
So it's currently
Right, so the advisory committees basically are committees that are made up of township residents who apply, as Mr. Grayzel had mentioned earlier, who apply for positions on committees, and when one becomes available, we interview people for those particular open slots. And there's a member or sometimes 2 members of the township committee that are also sit on advisory boards in an advisory capacity. We don't set the policy. The people on the advisory committees are the ones that set the policies.
I'll look it up.
So
I don't.
there's 6 members of the public who are
Thank
on
you.
it, and it's on the website. But yeah, they meet, I believe, quarterly, and they meet with the Parks and Rec department, Mr. Quinn, and the 2 of us.
Okay. I'll look it up. Do you happen to know off the top of your head if there are people my age with kids? And I don't mean this to challenge you, but I think you heard from a group of people who were like very willing to offer additional parent engagement. And it felt like there was not a lot of transparency before the decision was made.
Yeah, as I had mentioned, you are absolutely welcome, and I encourage you to show up at the next. And I'm trying to find the date of the next one, but I don't want to stay here and keep everybody here while I'm looking up.
I'll look it up. That's fine.
But you'll see it on the website, and I would hope that you and some of the other folks that were giving their kind of testimony tonight to come and speak, because all that input is valuable input.
Okay. Just a point about this being a mutual thing between lifeguards, pool staff, and the kids. And again, the kids are accountable. If I find out something, you can trust that they're held accountable at home. Mrs. Brady was obviously visibly emotional when she described it being a 2-way street in the relationship between the adults and the kid lifeguards who work there, and how she felt her sons and daughters were spoken to. Mrs. Dvorak obviously was just emotional about it. And I want to thank you for what you said to my son. I didn't know what he was going to say when he got up here. I was surprised that he felt the need to defend himself in front of who he views as authority figures, that he's not a rat. So I also have 4 kids, and you do too. And I wonder how you would feel if that was a label they were given all summer, and how you feel that they would respond to that. Do you think they'd conform easily? Do you think that would be a rallying cry against who they perceive as their enemy there?
No, I mean, that's why I wanted them to know that too. We on the township committee, we know that kids are good kids. Anybody who has kids knows that kids make mistakes.
Okay.
I need to say my kids would probably be called worse than rats.
Yeah, mine too. And that's why I don't really look. I'm not complaining about it. I don't care. I do care. Yeah, I do care.
I could see how that would be. You would feel if you were a young kid.
Yeah, and you wouldn't respond well. And then another point about the rules that you spoke of later. I think I read them I went on the website and did read them prior to my question this time. I still can't find anything that clearly outlines what the steps of discipline are to people who violate the rules. And I think that's the point that she's trying to make too. So that I appreciate what you said, Mr. Quinn, about what oftentimes happens. And you're right, that does happen. Sometimes we get calls and whatnot, and that's appropriate. People should be in trouble. But I guess my point is, it seems gray on how the kids were treated and what the relationship was. It seems gray on what we as a township or the pool committee are describing the steps of discipline. If all of this is gray, does it also seem extreme to jump to banning 3 grades worth of kids from going to the pool without parent engagement? Because you also got from this meeting a real willingness for parents to be engaged and be partners in the process. My last question is on timing. Mr. Ravitz, and again, I don't mean this in, I appreciate you as a partner. What can we expect as timing as parents from follow-up with your meeting with the pool committee?
I think Mayor Gyorfy had said that we're going to take this feedback back to a meeting between him, myself, Tim Quinn, and Bill Fulch, and review what the issues were last year. We, as Mr. Quinn had mentioned, we did have citizen complaints that came into Bill Fulch's office, and now we're hearing the other side. On last year, we did not hear from anybody, you know, like yourselves, who were talking about the other side of the issue. So we're going to go and talk about that. I don't know.
We can't, if the rules were to change, they'd have to be changed at a township committee meeting, and our next meeting is the third Wednesday of June. So
No,
nothing.
not till June. Oh,
Correct. We meet once a month,
Okay.
the third Wednesday. So nothing would change until then if the rules were to be amended.
That's what I was getting to.
okay. The only reason I ask is obviously like we haven't signed up for the pool yet, and probably a bunch of us have, though your numbers are great, but there are a lot of us, like this is an important part of our lives in the summer for the kids, and we don't know how much we're going to be able to take advantage of it.
You know, the objective in the Parks and Rec Committee and the objective of the Township Committee is that everybody enjoy the pools to the manner that, you know, they expect. You know, kids can be kids, adults can be, have their time and, you know, or quiet. And so it's gonna have to be something that we really deliberate on to find out where is the right balance for people's quiet enjoyment and then for kids to be kids. So we should hopefully have something for you by the next Township Committee meeting, because we want all the residents to be able to enjoy all the facilities of the township.
Okay. All right.
We're at time. We're over 5 minutes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike.
I just want to say, I looked on the calendar and the next swim pool advisory committee meeting is at Streeter, 6:30 on Thursday, July 27th.
Wow.
The end of summer. Okay. I hope we agree that this was sort of vague and this might have been a strong decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
And Mike, one more thing I want to reiterate, and as you talk to other parents, because it sounds like you talked to a lot of parents about this, is the issue that we have. And again, it's something learning that we've had in other places, but I learned about it tonight here, is that when we have to release a kid who's unsupervised at the pool, we have to release them to a parent. And if we can't contact the parent, in certain situations, parent's available. But if there's a parent that's not available, it's on us to hold the kid until a parent can pick them up, because we can't just let them go. So as I'm not asking for a response, I'm just saying, as we try to find a middle ground, just keep that in mind, and maybe you can come up with an idea about how we figure that out.
Obviously, that's true for police detainment, but for just asking a kid to leave a public space, you can't do it without.
We're gonna let this gentleman speak next.
Mitch Stanko, 17 Bell Drive. I popped in to hear about the ordinances for introduction, but there's no detail given. It's just, this is the ordinance, this is what it's about, but there's no detail. And from the explanations that were given during the discussion, 3 out of the 4, I got the gist of what it's about, but 1323, I have no idea what we're talking about. How would I find out what the details are?
The full text of the ordinance is posted on our website. So when you go to the agenda on our website, it'll have the full text of the ordinance there.
Okay.
And also Mr. Cantor can provide some background right now for you.
Sure.
1323.
Yeah, sure. This ordinance came out of a settlement that we had with Fair Share Housing. It's increasing the density in certain overlay districts that were part of our original Fair Share Housing agreement. This came out of the Red Bulls litigation.
Okay, that's good. One other thing, my wife and I, we're retired and we attend the pool on the summers. Not a lot, but quite a bit. We didn't notice any major disruptions that were occurring by young people at the pool. At least maybe we weren't there when it was happening. And I guess they weren't severe enough where you would have notified the police to come to stop the disruption. But that would be a reactive thing, calling the police when it's happening. I was just wondering if you would consider being a little proactive about it. And maybe when police do patrols, they could stop at the pool, get out, go in, speak to the supervision at the pool, ask how things are going, and then just get back in a patrol car and go. Do that once at the beginning of the patrol, maybe once at the end of the patrol. If it's a very busy weekend, they could maybe stop one time in the middle and just stop, go in, and come back. That could be enough to quell some of this. And if there is a major disruption, the people at the pool can point it out to the officer, and he could intercede, talk to him, whatever. Just a suggestion.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for sticking with us this evening. I see we have a member of the public's hand raised on Zoom, so we'll go to Mr. O'Reilly.
There, I was wondering where the unmute button was.
You found it.
Right. Okay. Thank the last gentleman for taking care of my question about 11320.
State your full name and address for the record, please.
Oh, yeah. Darn, June. The picture doesn't stay on. Anyway, so I know what you look like. James O'Reilly, 50 Independence Way.
Thank you.
Oh, the picture came back. Two questions. One, on 1123, with regard to outside dining, in other places, outside dining has been associated with rats and vermin. Have we looked at that? And I have another question too, but do you want to answer this one first?
Our health department would handle that with all their inspections for any restaurant facility.
But is there any no consideration in advance of a likely effect?
We don't anticipate having rats at our establishments, but if there is, we would certainly address it.
Other question was, I know several months ago you passed a resolution on native species for planting trees and I guess other vegetation. Is that enforceable on property owners or on residential associations, condos and things?
It is a non-binding resolution. So the township absolutely encourages the public to plant native species, and is what the township is doing on its own on its properties. It's the township, and Deputy Mayor Wilson, if you want to chip in, feel free, but it's something that is incredibly important to our local ecosystem and environment, and is something we are advocating members of the public adhere to with us.
Right. It's voluntary. It's not mandatory, but we, just to reiterate, we do strongly encourage that people abide by it, including the HOAs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Reilly. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the second public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have all that's left is adjournment. The time is now 9:38 p.m. May I please have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next regular meeting of the Township Committee will be held on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. in person and via Zoom. Closed session will start at 5 p.m. Thank you very much for joining, everyone. Have a good night.